This episode of the Busted Wide Open podcast is brought to you by Blueberry. Blueberry offers the best media hosting, accurate listening stats, and their all-new PowerPress Deluxe sites, a no-setup WordPress website for your podcast with all of the necessary links to share your show with the world built right in. If you currently produce a podcast and are looking for a better media host or looking to start a new one from scratch, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO and sign up for the best media hosting and a PowerPress Deluxe site to get your first month absolutely free. That's orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO, or just use the promo code BWO at checkout for your first month free. And with that said, enjoy the show.
Hello, this is the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, and you can't tell, but right now I'm dressed as Deacon and not the Fallen Angel because I'm at Waterworld, and you are listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast because there's degrees. There's a little bit busted open, but this is Busted Wide Open. You're listening to us, so thanks for listening.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome back to the Busted Wide Open podcast, but if this is your first time joining the show, I'd like to welcome you to episode number 190. Inching ever closer to that magic 200 number, I am Nick Howell.
And making a note to avoid the Usos barber at all costs, I am Sir Ian Dangerous. And welcome to the show.
Me both.
Dude, they look like they got the cut they gave to the kids on the short bus back in the 1950s. It's bad.
Ooh.
Look, hey, don't add us about hair fashion. I go to John Morrison's hairstylist, and Nick hasn't cut his hair in 3 years, but don't mind that.
You go to like TNA 2006 AJ Styles' hairstylist.
I'm not mad at that. Welcome to the show, everybody, and thank you for joining us today on Busted Wide Open. Indeed,
yes.
We are here to talk about all things wrestling related. This episode, we are talking about this week's AEW, NXT, Smackdown, and more. We got an Impact pay-per-view coming up on Sunday, and NXT Blackpool. Oh my goodness, so much to discuss today, Nick. So much to get to. We have no time to waste. Let's do some housekeeping and get into the show.
Yes, as always, guys, join us over on Facebook.com. Just search for Busted Wide Open, like our page, and send us a join request to get into the group with the rest of the phenomenal ones. You'll also find a link pinned at the top to get into our Discord server, which is where we do all of our live chats every single week, all throughout every show. We have active live chats going on for AEW, Raw, Smackdown, Dynamite, Dark, NWA Power, all of them, but you got to be into the Discord server for that. It is growing and growing every week, and thank you guys for every episode and every show that you guys join us in there. It's much appreciated, and it helps Sheriff McDonald stay sane by not having to delete a bunch of spoilers out of the Facebook group. There is a purpose behind it, and that is so that we can have both the best of both worlds. So join us in both Facebook and Discord over there. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at BWO Podcast. YouTube, streaming live right here at youtube.com/bustedwideopen every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern and every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, where we also do our patron mailbag episode immediately after this show that you're watching right now. So after this show, stick around. We're going to fire up a brand new stream immediately and take our listener questions, which we get from our patrons. And to get the ability to do that, you have to head over to patreon.com/BWO and sign up for just that $5 a month tier. That gives you the ability to have access to every show note for every episode that we do, as well as that ability to ask those patron listener questions for the patron mailbag that we do every Saturday, roughly around 5 p.m. Eastern. So in case you missed this show, you can still tune in. And hell, they're all on YouTube in perpetuity anyway, so you can always go back and just watch them on demand. But patreon.com/BWO. Thank you guys for all of your support. You patrons rock. And make sure everybody is subscribed at youtube.com/bustedwideopen. And also jingle that little bell so that you get notified whenever we go live or put up any new video content. Ian, I think you're right. There's so much to go over this week. There weren't really any big happenings, but there's so much content that we are on the precipice of. I don't think we should waste any more time and kick things straight off with All Elite Wrestling.
Well, let's run down the card of what happened this Wednesday on AEW. First off, you had Kenny Omega and Hangman Page teaming up to defeat Private Party.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, really fun, high energy, hot match. And a little bit of story to salt in there, too. Can Hangman and Kenny get along? They haven't been seeing eye to eye lately. They did pull it off the win here, but there was a little bit of tension between the two of them. They're kind of like slowly, I don't know if they're turning Hangman or if they're like, I don't know where they're going to end up with this, Nick. It's obviously Hangman's not happy with the Elite, with his place in the Elite, with how things have been with him ever since he lost to Jericho for the first ever title match. So I'm not really sure where they're going to end up, but do you think the pace of how they're taking this is fine? Like, are you okay with how slow it's going, or are you like an I want it now kind of person?
I am definitely not the I want it now person. I like the slow burn, but I have a hypothetical question for you. As a bartender yourself, as we saw last week, if I came into your bar while you were tending and I just walked around the back of the bar, grabbed a bottle of whiskey, poured myself some rocks and a nice strong double pour, and just walked out of there with it, would I get out of the bar, or would you challenge me to a tag team match the following week? Because that's kind of what went down here. Is Hangman stole a scotch and Private Party were like, we want our, you're gonna pay for that drink. That's how we got this match.
He should pay for that drink. That is the etiquette. That being said, I'm not really sure if that was Private Party's bar, if there was another bar, if it was just an open bar and anyone could do anything with it, and they had already like paid a big fee and it was just open, anyone could take what they want. Like, that whole scenario with the bar was very confusing to me. I was like, what? Whose bar is this? Where are you?
Where is the bartender?
I know it's a place that you need an invitation to get in, but shouldn't you also have someone pouring you drinks there, or are you pouring your own drinks, or how does this work exactly?
I mean, if it was Private Party's bar, all they would have is vodka cranberry.
Right, exactly. So why is he drinking scotch, and then is it already prepaid? Because the second he gets behind it, I work at a bar, and if someone else who works at the bar who's not on shift gets behind my bar, they get a tongue lashing. You don't come behind my bar when it's my bar. If Hangman Page, if I'm in the bathroom or if there's no one behind the bar, I walk back into my bar and Hangman Page is behind my bar pouring himself a scotch, I don't care if he's got 50 pounds on me. I'm taking the dude out of my bar. I'm grabbing him by the ear, twisting real hard and being like, you getting out of my bar today. Not going to happen, sir. Or I may just call my door staff and they're going to have to help me because he's a big hossy dude. But that being said,
speaking of big hossy dudes, where was Private Party's big hossy dude that's working the velvet rope?
It's always not his job to regulate. He's just he's working the rope.
All right.
He's outside of doing the rope. You have separate security guys. You have indoor security guys. You have he's the outdoor security guy. He just works the rope. The point that we're getting to, that we're kind of getting aside here, is that Hangman Page is drinking a lot and not doing a lot of stuff with the Elite. And I'm curious where they're going with this. I like the little nuances they're throwing in here. Like Hangman always being kind of, maybe he's been drinking. We're not sure. Like, that's fun. And not something you see a lot because there's no drinking on WWE TV. So it's kind of cool to see that little nuance. But yeah, I'm not mad at the pace either. I'll give him a little while longer. If we're still where we are right now in a month, I'll be like, all right, come on, let's go, guys.
This is better than Kenny doing video game montage characters with the Young Bucks in some kind of, 6-man tag scenario. I like that they're building storyline, and this one's probably, there is storyline that comes from it, and it's kind of a payoff if you've been a New Japan or a Bullet Club / Elite fan for long enough to know the history of all of these guys, and they've come up together in a way. So if you just started watching AEW TV, it's kind of paying off on its own, but it also is an added bonus if you know that Hangman's been around them, and there's been some strife, him and Marty, and so all of this stuff really does pay off in the end, and I want them to keep it going. Because don't pay it off right away. Let's let this build into something that could be really good.
Right. Yeah, agreed. Fingers crossed. Well, we go from really good to really, really bad, Nick. Possibly the worst thing that's happened on AEW TV to date, in my opinion. Like, just the most cringy, most just not good. Not good wrestling, not good TV. Riho has her match with Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander gunning for Riho's women's championship, the ugliest belt in wrestling. That's not true. WWE has worse belts, but man, that woman's belt's not pretty. It really isn't. I don't know. There's a lot they could do to improve that women's belt, and that goes for the division as well. So how appropriate. This was barely a match, Nick. Aside from being sloppy in a few places, they barely got going because so much other crap started happening. You had Brandy on commentary for the first little bit, which was bad enough.
Bad omen.
Oh my God, she was bad on commentary. Okay, here's the thing. We don't like being negative without explaining why and without perhaps, giving some sort of constructive criticism. So
you
I'm
go
not
first because I'm going to be negative.
I'm not going to just say that Brandy sucked because she did suck, but here's why she sucked and here's how it could have been better and here's how it could have improved. Brandy on commentary was there insulting the other commentators, being generally obnoxious, and when they would discuss either Chris Statlander or Britt Baker or anyone else, she would just insult them. The point of you being out there on commentary is to get someone or something over. The fundamental concept is to make people interested or make people care, make people understand your position on something. And insulting people right and left doesn't necessarily do that. It makes you come across like an obnoxious twit, which is what she did. When they mentioned Britt Baker and she just goes, I wouldn't want her working on my mouth, this kind of thing. Well, maybe you got to say that in a way that puts over Britt Baker what she is. Even if you're insulting her, it should be something that makes people want to care about Britt Baker. Whatever Britt Baker's doing, we have no idea if Britt Baker's being a face or a heel right now because she and Sheeta were sitting in the crowd, and when all the shenanigans happened with this match, Sheeta got up and got involved and tried to help the good guys, and Britt Baker just sat there and pouted. So we have no idea what's going on with Britt Baker, and Brandy didn't help with that. In addition, she didn't put over anything about how Chris Statlander is big and strong. She didn't put over how, Chris is a worthwhile wrestler, anything. She just insulted her. She's so silly. What are you talking about? Exhibit? Ha, 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 ha. What a witty thing to call Excalibur. It was very bad, and it didn't have to be because that was not her point in being there. She could have put over her people, Awesome Kong and Mel, who came out to the ring to get involved. There's lots she could have done, and she didn't do it. And frankly, Nick, this is actually worrisome because Brandy is so involved in the women's division and now is involved at the highest level in the women's division by getting involved in this title match and having her Nightmare Collective come out and get involved. And they did get involved, and they broke up the end of the match and messed it all up, and Riho retained just because they interfered to cost Chris Statlander the match, including interference from out from under the ring at one point came Dr. Luther, who we had speculated was going to be another member of the quote-unquote Nightmare Collective.
So who is Luther for
out.
those that might not know, or the commentary tried to explain haphazardly who he was and where he came from, but do you
in
know,
real life
yeah.
or in Japan? I mean, he's a very legendary Japanese deathmatch wrestler. I mean, I'm very legendary. I maybe be a bit of hyperbole, but yeah, he's been around quite a bit, but I don't think he ever really got terribly famous in the States. But he is really good friends with Chris Jericho, which is why I suspect he's around. He's got a good look for what they're doing here, as far as the Nightmare Collective. He's got a good look.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm still not 100% what it is they're doing with the Nightmare Collective. Obviously, they're a faction. Obviously, they're all somehow beholden to Brandy Rhodes. We still haven't defined whether it's a cult, what that cult believes, like why they're taking people's hair. Like a lot of these things haven't been defined yet. Is it supernatural? Is it not? And it's unfortunate because you have another cult that's very well defined, which is Dark Order, which we'll get to because I have some issues with that too. But the problem is all underscored the issues they're having with the women's division as a whole. There's just no strong definition to any of it. There's no reason for us to care right now. Chris Statlander has not really been established as a top babyface yet. She hasn't had time to be. Hikaru Shida got involved in this match. We don't really know who she is yet, except she's a babyface. Brandy just came across as obnoxious here. We still don't know anything more about that. She didn't get anything more about the Nightmare Collective over, anything more about, why they're together. Nothing of that came across. It was just Brandy kvetching and making fun of people, and it was completely counterproductive the whole segment.
Yep.
What you said you wanted to come down on it, Nick? What did you have to say about it?
Kenny Omega is going to shove Joshi Stardom Wrestling down our throats whether we like it or not. And I feel like there has been enough. Listen, I heard the Riho chants. I heard it. Had all of the stuff that happened in this match happened after the match and we either swapped a title or we didn't, I would have been okay with almost all of this. I personally didn't find Brandy that annoying. I was paying attention to the match. I wasn't really paying attention to what Brandy was saying. But you calling it out does give me pause and make me go, oh yeah, that was kind of stupid. But we did have constant cutbacks to Sheeta and Britt Baker ringside, both of them looking just, not why am I even here kind of looks on their faces. But this was a moment. You just signed. You signed her the day she debuted. You just signed the number one prospect. The number one prospect, right? And you're going to have her. It looked like she was pulling harder than she normally would with Riho, as if she was scared she was going to break her. And it made her ultimately look bad. And so now
neither of them looked good in this match.
Neither of them looked good. Let's put all the Nightmare Collective stuff aside for a minute. It looked bad. And I think that the best thing that they could do is recognize that they made a mistake strapping Riho this early. They gave her no underdog babyface story at all to build up from, to go after and, yes, she beat Nyla Rose, but that happened in like the course of 2 weeks. There was no thing. So I don't believe in her. I don't believe that she is this super that just finds a way to win constantly. And we had it again here. They were even beating her up. And
this is the problem.
None of it made any sense. It seemed inevitable that we were going to have a little bit of a reboot of the women's division. Let's strap Chris Statlander. Let's let everybody else chase. She's the hot new big prospect. And then maybe we continue to have the back and forth with the Nightmare Collective, because they've established that already, that they want to recruit. They want to induct Chris Statlander with her alien boop personality.
Whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's great. Had they had Chris Statlander go over before they came out or before they interfered, and then got in and messed her up and messed Riho up in the process, and then had Sheeta come out, I mean, the pieces would have just fit together better.
Well, I think you hit on
one
something.
Last thing.
There,
it just feels like they're so intent on having us get behind Riho and Hikaru Shida, which they're amazing. Don't get me wrong. I just don't have any reason to care.
Right. Yeah, and I think you hit on something, is that all the pieces are there. They have a lot of really good pieces. It's just how they've been put together so far. It has not worked, and they've got to reassess how they're putting the pieces together, and also how they're presenting these pieces.
Yeah.
And that was more my issue, was the presentation of a lot of this was severely lacking, and part of that came from the top, from Brandy, not knowing how to present them on commentary. You're there. You have an opportunity now. You could have put over a bunch of things here and given us a lot of pieces that would have made us care about all these elements that you have working in the women's division. You had the opportunity. It was right there. And you decided instead to just call people names, which gets nobody over, which advances nothing, doesn't put any butts in the seats. So enough bitching. Let's talk about good stuff. Sammy Guevara versus Christopher Daniels. Nice dude. I love watching the young guys face off against the old guys. And, Chris Daniels obviously still has it, still can go. That's part of his story, was he messed up that Arabian moonsault on Pentagon Jr. a couple of weeks ago. And now that's part of his story, is Chris Daniels past his prime? Is it too late for Chris Daniels, kind of thing? And it's like, of course it's not, dude. The dude can still completely go.
Yeah.
But seeing him work with a kid like Sammy Guevara, who is just, they've strapped the rockets to that kid for a reason. And obviously working with Jericho and being mentored by Jericho is doing wonders for him as well. It was just a lot of fun. It was very cool to see. And at the end of it all, Sammy Guevara beats Chris Daniels. And Chris Daniels in the ring, like having a moment of like, oh crap, have I lost it? And sure enough, out comes the Dark Order. And Evil Uno says, Chris, you've lost it, my friend, but if you put on my mask and join the Dark Order, we can give it back to you. And Chris, he has a moment of thinking about it. And then, no, he throws the mask at him, and he gets tackled by everybody, and out comes SCU to save him. And Out comes the Young Bucks and everyone else who got beat up by Dark Order a couple of weeks ago. It's a big old scrum. And at the end, Chris Daniels stands tall. What did you think about all this, Nick? Do you like the Chris Daniels finding his mojo again storyline? Is Dark Order intimidating enough, I guess, is my big question for this segment. Like, what did you think of all this?
We haven't seen a big enough personality put the mask on to show that it would make a difference in your career, so to speak. So we saw Alex, I'm struggling to remember their names, and that's kind of the point. Alex Reynolds, thank you. And there was another one as well that also donned the mask, but they haven't had – I think what needs to happen here to really put this over in a big way is to have someone of significance, upper mid-carder of sorts, to – like a Christopher Daniels. I actually thought he might actually do this.
Right.
There was a second when he had the mask. I was like, oh, shit, okay. Could it be a thing that turns them and gives them, dare I say, superpowers where it's a resurgence in their – is that the story they're trying to go for? The mask gives you energy and power and superhuman abilities kind of things.
Yeah.
Look, it's all fun and games, right? Look, I get that. But at the same time, I want to see it work, and you need to sell me that it does work on someone that I remember and get behind and tune in to watch every single week.
Or just anything, like with any of these cults, you have to give a reason for people to be in the cult. And at this point, we don't really see it. We kind of see it with Dark Order where, maybe this is some sort of mind brainwashing going on. But yeah, I agree. There needs to be something that establishes that they're powerful for a reason. Otherwise, they're just kind of there.
Is it Scientology or is it an MLM scheme? We don't know because nobody tells us.
I mean, they came out, they beat everybody up the last show of last year, and it was kind of controversial because people were like, well, why should we care about Dark Order? Well, why are they beating up the top of the card?
Right.
They've been established as a joke up until now, pretty much. And that's the problem is that, as you said, they need to not feel like a joke. Right. And here they kind of did again where they were very easy to say no to, and then they had a big scrum and they got chased off. So it's, and Scorpio went over the top rope. Of course he did. But again, they need to do something to establish them as a significant force. And there's actually, to try and promote later in the show, during the news segment at the end of the show, Nick, I have a rumor that's been floated that's apparently a strong rumor as for who will become the leader of the Dark Order in the coming months. But I'll save that for the news segment for later. Okay. So stay tuned.
Yes.
In the meantime, let's talk about Cody and his brother Dustin teaming up against the Lucha Brothers in a fantastic match. Dude, Dustin Rhodes still kicks so much ass in that ring at his age. It's unbe-freaking-leavable.
I don't know how he still does those power slams with 250-plus dudes,
Yeah, and well, he's a big boy to begin with, so that helps.
True.
But, you got two of the greatest wrestlers in the world in the Lucha Brothers, and Cody and Dustin are just step for step with them. Now, granted, it was kind of like them hyping the crowd and the Lucha Brothers doing a lot of the work, but this was still a wildly entertaining match. But Cody and Dustin beat the Lucha Brothers. Why do the Lucha Brothers seem to lose so much? It may just be my perception. Why do they seem to lose so much in AEW? You've got, and also, like, it's weird. You have Pentagon came out, distracted Christopher Daniels, cost him his match, so they still have some beef. And here now, the Lucha Brothers, I don't know if this was just a random one-off with the Rhodes boys or what, but to me, the Lucha Brothers still seem like they're kind of in limbo, and they haven't really been established as top tier for people that haven't watched them outside of AEW.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why is that, do you think?
Honestly, it's because I think they could lose every match, and I'm still going to get hype every time they come out. The song's a banger. Pentagon looks amazing in his get-up. Phoenix even looks fantastic.
Pentagon
he wore the mask you have this week, by the way.
Yep.
Which was fantastic. I called that out in the chat for people to remind them of
old school.
Look, the Lucha Bros, Pentagon, and Rey Fenix, for those that have been around wrestling, they're already kind of legends, right, in their own rights. Like they already have a presence, but when they walk out on top of the ramp, it's not like, oh, they lost 3 matches and now they're irrelevant. That's not going to happen. In a weird way, I think you need to keep Cody and Dustin strong. I think you need to keep them looking that way, because if they did that, that's the funny part of this whole thing. If they went on a massive losing streak like that, we'd kind of stop caring, or we'd lose faith in their ability to get over the big one, right?
Well,
But
people would question it. People would
every time,
question them, a lot more than Lucha Brothers losing. Yeah,
but every time the Lucha Brothers come out, there's just going to be an ass whooping, and that's what I'm there to watch. That's what I've signed up for when I see the Lucha Brothers come out. I'm not signed up yet for superior title contention. There's on any given Sunday, the Lucha Brothers could get one over on you, regardless of how many times they've lost, and that's what I take away from
Wednesday.
I'm sorry, any given Wednesday.
There you go.
Or Saturday, I should say.
What? Or
for their pay-per-views.
Right. Here's the thing: is that you're saying anytime that the Lucha Brothers come out, you're expecting something. Anytime Cody and Dustin come out, there's a huge pop. There's a huge crowd reaction. Cody might be the most over guy in AEW. It's like him or Orange Cassidy at this point.
Yeah.
But for very different reasons, which is kind of it's crazy on one hand. It makes sense on the other hand when you see how he got there. But I'm just wondering what they're going to do with that equity. And at the end of this match, you had Cody get asked by Tony Schiavone, what's up? Last week, MJF gave you a bunch of stipulations to have a match with him. What are you going to do? Arn Anderson steps in, and I got chills because he started giving one of those Arn Anderson promos. He started talking like Arn. Oh. And he said, we're not going to listen to his ridiculous demands right now. We're going to talk about it and get back to him.
Perfect.
What do you think about the inclusion of Arn in all of this?
Look, you can't not love it, but I haven't really made up my mind as to whether it was the right place for him to fit. I love the loose tying in with the Rhodes family and Arn Anderson, knowing the things that we know about his fall from grace in WWE in the last few years or so has just been, that sucked. But was that the right place to bring him in? I think they nailed it with Tully and Shawn Spears. I thought that was a perfect alignment, and it was great. That's the kind of amplification that you needed to use someone with that level of street cred to amplify. Cody and Dustin Rhodes did not need that. And I'm wondering if it's going to have a big payoff in the end or if it's going to come back to bite them, because somebody could take out Arn. It's such a loving relationship. They could want to defend Arn, and that ultimately costs them something. That if I were fantasy booking this, that's what I would do there.
That's what you just did.
I kind of just did, right? But I would have used Arn for someone like just a up-and-comer white meat babyface that we needed to amplify a little bit more, rather than spend that equity on Cody and Dustin that frankly didn't need it.
Yeah, and I think that if ever Shawn Spears comes back around, it'll pay off a lot more. And I think that they maybe should revisit that, but it doesn't seem to be on the horizon anytime soon. What seems to be on the horizon...
Listen, 1 second. If I'm watching NWA Power and Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson walk out into the studio, I'm absolutely going to lose my shit one of these days, because it was teased in the last couple of weeks that it might happen with Midnight Express and everything going on, or Rock and Roll Express, excuse me.
Yeah.
If that happened, the world might implode on us.
I don't see NWA happening with those two, but you might see it on AEW. Well, the other thing you saw was MJF coming out, and speaking of legends, comes out and gets interrupted by none other than Diamond Dallas Page. It's DDP. And he came out, and I have to say, only Diamond Dallas Page could come out and self-promote so goddamn hard in the middle of the ring with his Twitter handles and his Instagrams and his yoga and all the rest of it. He got the crowd chanting yoga at one point. And I'm sitting here with a big old grin on my face. Like, this guy is such a... if you know DDP's story and how he was, he got involved super late with wrestling. Yeah. Actually wrestling. He was just a manager before that. And just the success story that he had in WCW, becoming like such an over babyface, one of their top babyfaces, huge success. You've got to love the guy. And then also, of course, the incredible things he's done for how many people, including, a lot of old wrestlers with his yoga and his lifestyle changes. And it just made me just once again brought up for me just how unbelievably stupid and petty and short-sighted WWE was by just squandering the ability of this guy to be an amazing babyface. They had him stalking the Undertaker's wife. Like, it still blows my mind to this day. I remember, back in the day when I was way less savvy about all this stuff, watching that, and even back then being like, what are you doing?
This is dumb.
What are you doing? This is ridiculous. He's out today. He's out here, and he makes MJF look like that much more of a shitty bastard heel because he's such a good babyface.
Yep.
And sure enough, he comes out and essentially says, MJF, you're a little shit, basically. And the best part is during his whole during DDP's whole speech, MJF is in the corner live tweeting.
That was brilliant. Just not even caring, just scrolling.
So, yeah, and DDP's like, look, you got my ring for the match, fine, but you know what? You're kind of a little shit. And MJF says, well, DDP, I know you've been talking about having one more match, but it's not going to be with me. How about you fight these guys? They're more down for a fight. Butcher and Blade come out. Both eat a diamond cutter before MJF gets a low blow off on DDP, and the beatdown begins. And then QT Marshall and Dustin run out to save DDP. Here's my question. Why the hell are Butcher and Blade still going out there and eating diamond cutters and not getting over? Because again, you have the opportunity to make them look dominant, and as dominant as they look, their appearance, their gimmick is intimidating as hell. And then they just get squashed every time, it seems. And it hasn't been many times, agreed, but they don't come across as being very strong right now, Nick.
I'm not there yet. It's been twice now. It's not. I think there's still an opportunity to, have them get over Private Party or something like that. Like there's gonna be that match, that signature win that makes them super believable. We just haven't had it yet. And again, it's patience. It
needs to happen. It needs to happen ASAP with these two.
Sooner than later. Yeah.
It's going to happen next week. Butcher Blade and MJF versus QT Marshall, Dustin Rhodes, and DDP happens next week. So.
Oh, they'll put them down. Yeah.
There you go. Jurassic Express and the Best Friends had a match. All three of the all 3-on-3. It was Marco and Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus all three of the Best Friends. Trent with the question mark. And Chucky T and Orange Cassidy getting the biggest pop of the night by far. Good Lord, that guy is over.
It blows my mind every single time. But
is this the kind of thing that you couldn't do this? It wouldn't work in WWE. It's the fan engagement. Like this was such a comedy match with Marco doing his stuff, and being funny and, trying to get himself pepped up for Trent and Trent just demolishing him, or Lucha's like the whole gimmick of the Jurassic Express, which is kind of goofy. Orange Cassidy, which is wildly goofy, but yet is over as hell, and people take it dead seriously when he does the little kind of half-hearted kicks, and the whole crowd is involved in that. That wouldn't work in WWE, would it?
No.
Like this would only work
he's even taking the double step back to do the crow step to step into it, and people are doing the Daniel Bryan like he's revving up, So I don't. The thing that continues to amaze me is how much fun people are having with wrestling again.
Yeah.
And I think Orange Cassidy is just an example of that. I think it was a long 3 to 5 year slog, and in a combination, some of the things that WWE, to their credit, is getting us back into it again. Look at the Fiend.
Right.
There's things happening across wrestling right now, from the indies to WWE and all things in between, that we're all just kind of having. Is this a renaissance that we're going through of? We're enjoying wrestling again, and we're not just being belligerent buttheads about everything, except on Twitter.
A lot of people still are. I was going to say, Nick. But that's the thing.
Let me make one other real quick point.
Yeah.
AEW's audience is still a very marky kind of crowd. Right?
No, Nick.
There's not a lot of the filthy casuals going to AEW events as there are in WWE events. So my point being is that, yes, you're going to get chants for things like yoga. They're going to latch on to anything that's two syllables and make a chant out of it, right? They're going to laugh at Orange Cassidy because it's inclusive. They want to be a part of the thing, right? So, yeah. But
also, I think there's something beyond that as well, where Cornette would obviously like he's loses, ounces and ounces of steam out his ears every time that he sees Orange Cassidy wrestle. He's like, oh, he's killing the business. You're exposing the business. You're killing it. You know what the business is anything the crowd will buy into. That's all it is if you can get it over, it's over, dude. Like that's all there is. It doesn't matter beyond that. You don't have to have it be like two guys genuinely in the ring wrestling and it's all super technical. That doesn't have to be what it is. It can be anything. You've got the champion in WWE is a mystical psycho entity. Clown. Clown thing. Like, good God, you want to get
Psycho
on somebody.
Clown. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the Psycho Clown, but it's basically
he's an
Psycho Demon Clown.
Wait, he's not an insane clown. I take that back too. No, that's my point. Is that it's whatever you can get over. Whatever you can get over is what works. And Orange Cassidy has gotten his gimmick over with that crowd. Like they're all buying in as though he's like whatever his little kicks or whatever. Like that. Obviously, we get it. It's irony at this point, but at the same time, it's over, and that sells, and that works. I know the counter argument would be, well, how long will it last? And really, all I have to say to that is, as long as they can make it last.
So far, so good. It only seems to be amping up.
God.
I laughed at it harder than I ever have. I just said this in the chat. I laughed at it harder last week when the Best Friends pulled him out on the ladder from under the ring. I literal LOL busted out laughing because he was just sitting there with his hands in his pockets and looking around going like, wait, where am I?
Goes on the top turnbuckle and he like signals like he's going to do a front flip and he just kind of falls off.
Yeah.
Onto the headbutts him. Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's dude, a lot of people I think get too precious about it. And really like all it comes down to is the crowd having fun with it. Are they invested in it? Are they in? If so, then let it happen. Like That's
will come and go and live and die on its own as what was the thing they talked about in Gladiator all the time? It's pleasing the mob. The mob rules Rome, right?
That's all you have to do.
That's really all it's about.
Please them. Well said. Finally, Jon Moxley finally gave his answer to Chris Jericho. Would he or wouldn't he join the Inner Circle? And his answer was yes. He will join the Inner Circle. He's wearing an Inner Circle shirt. He says, let's bust out the bubbly. I can't be bought, but I want to dominate. And you guys are the most dominating force in wrestling, so I'm in. And the crowd went, what? Yay? Wait, boo? Wait, what? Oh, people were swerved by this. Flipped.
This might be the hardest I've ever been worked in my wrestling fandom of all time. Because here's why. We do this show and we notice little nitpicky kind of things, right? We notice that AEW is still in its fledgling state, right? We understand production and how that works and timing. And I was looking at the clock going, shit, they still got like 8 minutes. How are they going to, after he says yes, and they're like, how are they going to close this out? Is somebody going to run out and challenge him? Is Tana and Suzuki going to show up because Jericho or Moxley?
Oh, God, you really worked yourself into a
like, shoot. Oh, my God, all of this stuff. And then he hands him hey, you promised me the keys to that Ford GT, and he handed it to him like, oh, my God. Really? Did they just
really give the GT keys? Oh God, I guess really happening.
Did they just go too fast throughout the show from a production standpoint, and they just had all this extra time to kill at the end? Because I'm like waiting for something else to happen. Nothing does, and
I was already ready to come on the show and be like, it was really kind of awkward the way the end of the show with them just standing in the ring and they were just partying it up, and the whole crowd was kind of feeling awkward. I felt awkward. It was a weird way to go off the air. I feel like they screwed up their timing somehow.
Right.
And then with 30 seconds left, Moxley goes, "Hey, Chris,
I'm not joining your thing.
I'm just kidding. Your group is stupid, and screw you."
Why would I ever want to join that?
Hits him in the head with a bottle.
You son of a bitch!
Paradigm shift to him. Paradigm shift to Sammy Guevara. Tries to hit Jake Hager with the bottle, but it disintegrates in his hand, and he runs off into the crowd, flipping the bird and saying, I got the keys. Oh, my goodness. Oh, that was fun. That was fun.
Son of a good God. Moxley. Well done.
And also, the other thing I really got to point out here is there's one thing that really good villains do, and honestly, really good actors. This is just something that I think is kind of it's a big deal when you see it. Is people that are willing to be vulnerable it goes a long way towards like just the quality of their performance. And Chris Jericho is really, really down to look like a fool. He's okay with looking like a fool. He's okay with looking like he's been made a fool of.
Yeah.
He's okay with like he was, hitting the head with a bottle, and they cut back to him, and he's just like they're trying to Hager's picking up his lifeless body, and Jericho is selling it like he's waking up from a coma. And it just made me think like what a generous performer Chris Jericho is, that he's willing to make himself seem like he could be that vulnerable, that he could be made that much a fool of. It makes Moxley it makes him seem that much better. It sells the whole segment so much better. He can get his back later. It's something that so few people truly understand or know that they have to do. Like, so many people don't ever want to look vulnerable. Moxley does it too. Moxley, even with this new character, which is kind of like every teenage boy's fantasy of what they want to be, is like the strong badass who's still somehow intelligent, who's gets it over on, sticks to the man and like is super violent, all the rest. When he lost to Toru Yano in the G1, he was made a fool of. Like, Toru Yano made a fool of him. And he totally sold like, I have been made a fool of. So it's not like Moxley's above it either. And the best performers do that. They're generous with that. And it makes them better. It makes their opponents better. So I just loved seeing that. Little tangent I wanted to go on. Just a thought that I had.
I don't want him to stop here. I want to turn it up to 11. I want Moxley to come out next week with that 4GT, and it's in a cube. It's been crushed. And just to stick it to him, like have it sitting at the top of the ramp or on the bed of a truck in a video package, or have him at some scrapyard getting it picked up by one of those claw cranes and just crushed and dropped down into the crusher. Amp this up. Like, take it to 11, because by God, just have Moxley on a collision course with Chris Jericho.
Oh, I think that's exactly where they're going. So weird thing here, Nick. You've got two guys who won their Japan matches, and they referenced that. They said they both were in the Tokyo Dome. They won their matches. Moxley held up a sign saying, I won 2 of my matches. But no reference to where they were. No, they didn't say New Japan.
I thought they said Wrestle Kingdom.
They said Wrestle Kingdom, I think. They
Yeah.
might have let that slip. But they didn't say New Japan.
Right.
They said the Tokyo Dome, but they didn't say Tanahashi. They didn't say anything about Archer or Suzuki or anything like that.
No, we both won our matches at Wrestle Kingdom this weekend.
Right.
Is what
so what does that say to you? I mean, to me, that says things still chilly, things still evolving with New Japan.
I think they want us to think that. I like I said last week,
supposedly,
I think there's a deal. There's a back alley, secret handshake that's we're getting ready to get exposed to over the course of this year.
The report I saw was that Tony Khan didn't want the word New Japan said, because he said it does, or mention of the belts over there. He didn't want Moxley wearing the U.S. belt. He said it doesn't. It's not advantageous to our company.
I agree with that.
Was his exact words. So
I agree with that.
I don't know. I have a very different mindset about how to do business, but then again, I'm also not a billionaire, so what do I know?
Right.
So overall, man, I mean, I know we're running a little behind here on the AEW segment, but I think it's time to really kind of do a state of the union with AEW. It's been a few months now. Do you feel like it's improving? Because I felt like the commentary was better this week. The pacing was fine. Some of the builds they're doing right. The overall presentation seems like it's falling into line. Or do you feel like it's not as good as it should be? It's not evolving as fast as it should be. It's maybe even falling off. Like the women's division's a problem. Sometimes the pacing's good, sometimes it's bad. Some of these pushes are a little weird. Like, why are some people getting pushed and not other people? Like we were saying with Lucha Brothers, Shawn Spears is in a weird place. A bunch of stuff like that. Darby Allin, kind of come and go. The positioning of certain talent, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And just the execution of some of their storylines, and basically, is their presentation good or bad? Like, where do you think AEW's at right now? Because I think an argument could be made either way.
It could, and I think I've been pretty open and transparent about that. I was going to give them a good 6 to 12 months before I really kind of levied judgment on certain things. So it's very much still in the experimental phase, and it kind of feels that way. We're still feeling things out. We're developing our first storylines that are going to go on for years to come, hopefully. So all of this is still very much in flux. We've had a number of excellent pay-per-views. We've had a number of excellent feuds and title matches. We've had the introduction of The Ring, which I thought was an interesting play. I'll give him credit for that. Yeah, there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good. There's more good than bad. And it's still not my favorite one to watch every week, but it's my second favorite. So I love watching this show, and I make a point to watch it first every week because I DVR my favorite. So because I know my favorite's going to be awesome, but I want to watch this one live and be able to react to it with the fans, either on Twitter or with the rest of the phenomenal ones in Discord. Like I am invested, personally invested, and of course professionally as we do this show, but I mean personally invested in the success of AEW. It does nothing but good things for the entire industry as a whole for it to succeed and to do well. And that's what really frustrates me when we look at things like the Nightmare Collective, like the women's division in general. Everything else seems to be hitting on all cylinders. We've got a little bit of thing going on with the Butcher and the Blade, and things are still getting worked out, but that's okay. We'll figure that stuff out as we go. The big fundamental foundational things like the women's division, right? You've got to get people invested in that, and it's not working yet, whatever they've done so far. So, yes, looking back at AEW in the last October, almost 4 months, it's been 3 months, guys. It's not even fair to really have an opinion or a judgment on it right now. Give them time.
Here we are. Here we are. We have to.
I understand we have to an extent, but what I don't want people to take away is a binary, it sucks or it's amazing. Like there's no, it's not one or the other. It's there's different strokes for different folks in the middle, and some people like the very marky style of the indies on big TV, which is kind of what AEW is tapping into with a little bit of AEW salt bait on there. But at the same, a little WWE salt bait on there. But WWE it is what it is, and it's what we've always known it to be, and it's going to continue to be that for as long as Vince McMahon continues to sit in that chair, and that's not going to change. And
so what you're saying is with AEW is that they're just getting started. You still have a lot of hope for a lot of the stuff. It's hit or miss on some things, but overall good. And what you would say is overall you are skeptically optimistic.
Beat me to it. Yes, sir.
I got you, buddy.
So how about you?
No, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
You took the words out of my mouth. Next week, Bash at the Beach is happening. The number one contender match, Kenny and Hangman Page versus the Young Bucks versus the Best Friends versus PNP, Proud and Powerful. For the number one contender to the tag team title ship, I'm not sure why Best Friends are in this one. They just lost to Jurassic Express this week, but whatever. We have Pac versus Darby Allin. Nice. Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida look for revenge against Awesome Kong and Mel. MJF, Butcher and Blade versus Dustin Rhodes, QT Marshall, and DD Freakin' P. Plus, Cody and Arn will give their response to MJF, something else they push back. So, big show next week.
Yeah, and the whole Bash at the Beach thing is supposed to be 9 days. It's going to have 2 Dynamites. It's going to have the Jericho Cruise and the pay-per-view on the weekend. So strap in, guys. This is going to be a big week in AEW, and I think a lot of things are going to get put into motion. Look at what we've got with the number one contender match. It's 4 face teams?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And then we've got
no. Four face teams. Hold on a second.
What? The Bucks?
Kenny Hangman, Bucks, Best Friends, and Proud and Powerful.
I'm sorry. For some reason, I thought Private Party. Proud and Powerful.
Sorry. Yeah. They're my faves to win, frankly.
Yeah.
Just because they are the heel. So it's gonna be an interesting few weeks of AEW. Maybe we'll have to reassess again after the next couple of weeks, and we really see maybe their trajectory for the next year, Nick. But that's not all that's happening on Wednesdays. It's a big day in wrestling, and we also need to discuss NXT.
Well, kicking things off this week, first of all, I have to say I'm withholding my... Okay. Rhea Ripley.
You okay there, buddy?
Yeah, this you might have to carry this NXT because it's just all the memories are coming back here 3 days later. Oh, NXT was Nick's show this week, guys. I'll give you 3 guesses as to why.
I only need 2, one for each side. No, Nick, this week we start off with Rhea Ripley in the ring celebrating her title win, which was the last thing that we saw was her demolishing, finally conquering the animal, the monster that was Shayna Baszler, giving her a top rope or avalanche riptide to win the women's championship. Rhea Ripley out there. The crowd loves her. She was celebrating, but it was not to be for long because, of course, as with any such segments, women have to come out and say that they are challenging, that they want to throw their hats, if you will, in the ring.
I want the title. No, I want the title. No, I want the title.
No, I want a title shot. No, I want a title shot. Well, the first girl to come out and ask for a title shot was not one I think anybody expected, because out came Toni Storm. And Nick had an aneurysm immediately.
Oh, I didn't, because I was watching AEW and I had to watch it later, and people were telling me, I was like, shut up.
Immediately when you saw it, when you saw her come out. When you saw it, the segment, when you saw Toni Storm come out. Just calm down. Don't try to get me in trouble. So, yeah, out comes Toni Storm to say, hey, Rhea, just so you know, I'm over here today, and you're the champ, and I'm not, and I've beaten you twice in NXT UK. So how about giving me a title shot? And Rhea's kind of like, all right, we'll go for it at Worlds Collide. How about that? But, of course, that we couldn't just have it stay there. We had all kinds of other women come out. We had Kaylee Ray come out. She's the UK champ and say, I've beaten both of you. How about I have a shot? I become double champ. You had Io Shirai who came out, slapped the mic out of Kaylee Ray's hands, picked it up and walked into the ring, and said in Japanese, I'm the best person in NXT. I'm the best wrestler in NXT. Points at the belt and goes, mine. Out comes Bianca Belair to say, girl. I want a title shot. I can beat you. You don't even go here.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
This was a fun segment. And then, of course, at the end, you got Candice LeRae come out and be like, hey, everybody. And Rhea's like, Candice, really? You two? Really? Really? She's like, everybody else was doing it. Ends in a big scuffle. We end up having like a 6-woman tag match. It was
I guess they split off into sides.
Tony, Regal made a spot decision and was like, all right, Tony, Rhea, and Candice, you versus the heels, Bianca, Io, and Kaylee Ray. Cool, short, fun little match. But it ended up with a whole bunch of tomfoolery. Io Shirai and Rhea and Bianca Belair get into it, which was interesting. And Rhea Ripley ends up giving a riptide to Bianca Belair for the pin. So, okay. We just saw a whole bunch of the female talent in NXT and somewhat in NXT UK. Because who knows what's going to happen with all of that after this weekend at NXT TakeOver Blackpool. Okay, we got a bunch of women here. Who do you see? Obviously, Tony's got the match at Worlds Collide. Who do you see being the first feud out of all these women for Rhea?
That's not a fair question.
Or are you're just still
I'm
stumped
so
because
on
you're
the
thinking
Tony
about
train
Toni
at this point because
God.
The best thing they could look if they have Tony eat the pin and Kaylee Ray retains, it's kind of a no-brainer. But Bianca has proven I don't think she's up to the task. Io Shirai is the one that's the most interesting to me, but I don't know that we could have Asuka 2.0 this soon. Especially coming off of Shayna, we need to have a face champ for a long time. We need to cleanse the palate a little bit, right?
A decent amount of time, maybe not a long time,
not forever.
Rhea should have a decent reign. I agree, which I think should factor into any predictions anyone makes about her next real feud. Is that person really can't win the feud?
Yeah,
and so there has to be someone who can afford to not win a top level feud. Bianca is
going to be Tony.
You think it's going to be but she's going to have one match. Do you think that she's going to turn heel and then we're going to have a long thing? I mean,
I don't know.
So your answer
Io
to
doesn't
everything
make sense. Bianca doesn't make sense. Candice doesn't make sense. Kaylee Ray doesn't make sense. Tony is the only one that kind of makes sense.
So Nick's answered everything at this point.
Is 42.
Give me Tony Storm, baby. Tony Storm, 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 Storm. Is that your answer?
Wow.
It's everything? What?
Wow.
Why?
That was amazing.
Thanks. So maybe Tony Storm, she'll definitely have at least one match with Rhea Ripley. We know that at Worlds Collide.
Yeah.
But beyond that, yeah, I'm having a tough one too. Bianca Belair just lost a top-level feud with
She just
Shayna.
ate the pin Wednesday.
Candice is a face. Io Shirai, but do you throw away Io Shirai to that right now? I don't know. Weird. We shall see. We also had the Dusty Rhodes Classic, the Tag Team Classic. First round happened. First round match: Imperium versus Forgotten Sons. Who? Forgotten Sons. Who? I don't know. I forgot because they lost to Imperium. They're out. Is this particularly egregious? Like, I know you're salty because your boys lost here, but is it particularly egregious because they're one of the only like real tag teams in this whole tournament? Like they were a tag team before the tournament in NXT, and they're losing first round. I know Imperium's a tag team, but they're in NXT UK, and they're one of the many like NXT UK teams that had to be brought over to fill out this whole thing. Are you salty about Forgotten Sons losing first round because they're an actual tag team, or because they're just kind of being underused? They're being forgotten again. Also, why did Cutler cut his hair?
I don't know. He went to the same barber as Jimmy Uso.
Oof.
I would not have been mad at this if it had been a semifinal or the final. I feel like the way that the blocks were designed, like I've questioned several of the Mae Young Classic brackets. The way that they were, I don't know if they're lottery picks or if they're just designed to start that way. That feels like it should have been the best tag team in NXT versus the best tag team in NXT UK with all of these coming over. And whether it would have been Imperium or Gallus, I feel like Forgotten Sons have probably stepped up and picked up that mantle now that Street Profits, Viking Raiders, War Machine have moved on, right? So I guess I'm curious why, it's especially salty. And not because of my markery for Jackson Riker, but because they took it to the end, the last tournament, and they're going to get knocked out in the first. They're going to get chumped by Imperium, a foreign team.
Chumped. Okay.
In the first round.
A foreign team. Or you mean from the other brand?
From the other brand. From the other side of the world. This is our house, son. You don't walk into our house and beat us.
Their whole thing is that they're foreign, like if we are from Austria, we're the European Union. I thought that's what you thought you were going off on that.
No. Just you're going to have the UK brand come over and chump us in our own play. Like I said,
you're going to have these dirty Europeans come and beat the All-American team. What kind of crap is this?
Look,
USA.
They could have bracketized this where you had the final at Worlds Collide.
Those
and it'd be a UK team versus the NXT team for all the marbles. You know, they could have had this be the final.
You're going to have these European espresso drinkers come over and beat them? Nonsense.
He's saying it. I'm not.
Oh my God. All right. Okay. But that's the thing, though, Nick. Don't you think this is going to be something that we revisit at Worlds Collide, perhaps? Because that's the next big thing that's coming up for NXT. And a lot of this feels to me like setting up for that.
Yeah. And I say the best tag team's still there. I take Undisputed Era for granted all the time because they are easily the best.
They're just so good.
And I don't even really like consider them anymore in a weird way because they're just a given. Right. It's just taken for granted completely on my part. But I mean, that match with Gallus was amazing.
It was a fantastic match. I mean, and got, even though Gallus did lose, it was because of outside interference. So it kind of protects them. They're having a big match at Blackpool this weekend.
Right.
So to me, it makes sense to not have them win this and have Undisputed Era go on. They were protected in the finish here. So I wasn't mad at it either. And it was like you said, just two teams that can go.
Here's what I want to understand. Is the Dusty Tag Team Classic, is it more akin to the breakout tournament that we just recently saw, or is it just blood sport where anybody from around the world can show up and fight?
Anybody in NXT from around the world. You got two brands. You got and I mean NXT and UK, and they're promoting an UK Blackpool for the weekend. Like, I'm not sure why this is where the disconnect's happening here, but it all makes sense.
Okay.
It's anybody who's NXT. Plus, they also had to fill it out with the UK teams because they don't have enough tag teams in regular NXT anymore.
No.
So they had to fill it out. So it seemed to make sense to me. But yeah, Undisputed Era and Imperium move on to the next round. Nick, Austin Theory came out this week again. Last time it was Roderick Strong. This time it was Joaquin Wilde. This match was like watching ice cream get made. It was just smooth and creamy buttery the entire time. My goodness.
How good is Austin Theory? That dude, he's looking real jacked, baby, too.
He is the total package.
Yeah.
There's just no question in my mind that guy, barring barring any issues, that guy is a future top talent.
Yeah.
And he's 23. What? Good Lord. Good sweet Lord. Joaquin Wilde's a perfect opponent for him too, because they just meld together so well. Although I'm sorry, but Austin Theory looks like a man next to Joaquin Wilde. Joaquin Wilde looks like he's just a boy living in Austin Theory's world. As good as he is. We also had a match. Mia Yim defeated Caden Carter, who's getting a little bit more TV time. Nice seeing her on TV a little bit
Very
more.
Nice.
But then Mia Yim got taken out by Chelsea Green, who appears to be the first member of an up-and-coming stable led by Robbie E. from Impact, Robert Stone, as he's now known in NXT. Interesting. So we're giving possibly Mia Yim something to do in the mid-card of the women's division here. And like, who else is joining this stable? Like, I mean, maybe like a Tainara or
whatever it is. Who was the guy in Lucha Underground that was the sort of used car salesman, promo hype man? I can never remember his name.
Famous B.
Famous B. Thank you. And he had all the little used car videos and all that kind of stuff, right? That's what this kind of reminded me of, with the old throwback suit, the big 80s, 70s, 80s glasses. That's what this reminded me of, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was kind of great. I was sitting there laughing the whole time, listening to him. I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. Old school throwback manager. I mean, go back to Cornette with the tennis racket. I mean, this could evolve into something, along those lines. I'm not saying he's as good as that. I'm saying it reminded me of that.
Yeah.
So I love that kind of kitschy stuff from managers. We haven't had enough good managers in the last couple of decades, really.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to getting back into some of that stuff. I always want to go back to Cornette and to Paul Bearer and Heenan and things like that. I want some more of that in my wrestling, and this was a thing that's where my mind went when I saw him come out with Chelsea Green. Is Chelsea the right one for him to represent? Yeah, we'll see. To be determined. But if she got out there and messed up Mia Yim, are we going to have Mia Yim versus Chelsea Green?
Not mad at that.
Not mad at that at all.
I'm mad at that. And I'm not mad at a women's stable being formed of some sort. I mean, especially if they're doing it possibly in response to the Nightmare Collective and being like, hey guys, we could do it better. All right. Have fun. Do it better, please. Speaking of managers, I'm looking forward to Stokely Hathaway coming up too. So
yes.
Yeah, hopefully some good managers coming out. 423 Get Fame. So we've also finally got our number one contenders match for Roderick Strong's North American Championship. Got Keith Lee versus Damian Priest versus I don't even remember who else was in this match. Dominic Dijakovic and good Lord, I'm sorry, Keith Lee was in this match. What else do I need to say?
We didn't forget about Keith, that's for sure.
We didn't forget about Keith, but I did forget about Cameron Grimes, who ate like one of the most monstrous spirit bomb power bombs at the end of this match from Keith Lee. Keith Lee
almost
throwing dudes into
him.
Dudes. Yeah. Throwing dudes into dudes. He is your number one contender, Keith Lee, for Roderick Strong's North American Championship. All right, cool. Let's talk. First of all, of course, this match was a ton of fun. We knew that was going to happen. Everyone played their part. It was great. But how much of an afterthought did everyone else feel like with Keith Lee around? Like everyone had a promo leading up to this, And the only ones that really, the only person's promo who I thought really like was there was Keith Lee. Dominic Dijakovic was like, no one's going to forget the name Dijakovic. Damian Priest is like, I'm going to live forever. Cameron Grimes is like, that's right, them dirty boys going to learn who Cameron Grimes is. Don't you know, I'm Cajun. And Keith Lee was the only one that actually I thought had like a decent promo leading into this. And then even in the match, like Keith Lee was the whole show. Like, is everyone else kind of getting second shrift here a little bit?
Yeah.
And if so, is that their fault?
So.
Rightfully so. So what?
It's the Keith show now, man. It really is. And they look, since he had that first moment where he popped up, and it's beside Finn Balor outside the ring.
Oh, that was the moment?
It's a meme now. It's absolutely a meme now.
He's got a million of them. He pounced Adam Cole into the crowd.
He did it with the Santa hat to Damian Priest, and he did it again this week when Priest and Dijakovic were facing off in the middle of the ring. He just pops, rises up. It's a meme now. It's
the
his
Godzilla,
thing.
The Godzilla like rise up thing. It's definitely becoming like his thing. Like, y'all forgot about Keith. Don't you forget about Keith, because he's right there on the outside. He's gonna come up like Godzilla. Yeah.
If he does that and just starts spitting fire.
Oh God, that was a really good Godzilla impression.
I do voiceover work. NickHowellVO.com.
Can you do a Mothra? That's the question.
No.
So all right. So Keith's number one contender, but he's getting his match on TV. He's got in TV the 22nd. So
this is not going to be at Worlds Collide.
No, it's supposed to be on TV's match. And so I was like, wait, what? So is it gonna be a feud? Because obviously Undisputed Era is gonna get involved. There's gonna be shenanigans. If it's on TV, they're not gonna have that title change hands. Lee's not getting it then. So wow, interesting. All right, interesting. So yeah, very curious what the thought is there and how they're gonna go from there with that, because I think everyone wants Keith to get this title or a title. At this point, you know, the crowd is definitely on his side.
You know what I say? In Regal, we trust.
Well,
hands off the wheel. I trust Regal. Let's see what happens here.
In the kayfabe here?
What?
Are you in kayfabe here? There's a lot of guys who booked this, not just Regal.
Oh, I understand, but I mean, at the same time, if shenaniganry ensues, does he come out and from his little crow's nest to go, stop it? It's now a lumberjack match. You know, it turns it into something crazy, right?
Sure.
I don't know, but let's see what happens in Regal We Trust. And yes, I think everybody on the planet wants Keith Lee to have this championship after this match,
or just a championship. Just give him something. You know, yeah. I hope they find a way to navigate him to it.
Here's Nick's crazy prediction.
Uh-oh.
Keith Lee will be facing whoever it is for the NXT Championship at WrestleMania.
That's a fairly wild prediction. I'm not going to completely crap on it because it's not outside of the realm of possibility. He is one of the hottest properties they have right now, at least in terms of his hype. So, other hot people they got, man. They got Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor, who both cut promos this week, and Johnny was out in the ring. Finn was out in the ring. They had a little face down. Looks like they're going to be meeting in Portland, Oregon at their upcoming takeover. Also, Tommaso Ciampa says Adam Cole took his life. He wants it back in reference to Goldie, the championship. Looks like they'll probably have a match at Portland.
That promo was fire, by the way.
Oh, Ciampa's a great promo. Ugh. Absolutely. So there's all those guys that are, I would say, you know, they've been around a little longer. I mean, Balor, Nick, I hate to tell you, Balor is much more likely to have a title match on WrestleMania weekend than Keith Lee. Keith Lee maybe for North American Championship, not the championship. I'm telling you right now. But we also had some announcements about the Dusty Tag Championship Classic Rhodes finale thing, Daddy. Next week we've got what do they call them? The Broserweights. Matt Riddle cut a promo where describing how he and Pete Dunne got together to become a tag team, how that worked out. Here's what's great about this is that I know that I've heard they actually recorded this twice. They had a scripted promo they wanted Matt Riddle to do, and Matt was like, I don't like this. I want to do it my way. And Triple H essentially said, you know what? Hey, dude, cool. Do a take your way, do a take our way. We'll pick whichever one comes across better. And they picked the one that Matt Riddle wanted to do. They picked his way. And that's what we got was him being like, I went up to Keith. Keith did his Keith thing. I went, bro.
Or
He
Pete.
went, Pete, yeah. I was like, bro. He was like, hey. He was like, want to be a tag team? He was like, ugh. And that's how the Broserweights were born, bro.
I'm a bro. You're a bruiserweight. The Broserweights.
Yeah. So that's just Matt Riddle in a nutshell.
Fantastic.
That was a lot of fun. But for me, the big takeaway was it was revealed who Kushida's partner will be. And it was somebody that nobody saw coming. Nobody. We probably should have seen it coming. But I didn't even know this guy was involved with NXT. Alex Shelley. Alex Shelley, if that name does not ring a bell, then I've got a lot of New Japan matches for you to watch where he was tagged up with Kushida and they were just kicking seven sorts of ass. This is brilliant. They were called the Time Splitters, and they are reforming the Time Splitters in NXT in the Dusty Tag Team Classic, which I'm sorry, they're now my favorites to win this damn thing. We were saying the tag division was thin. These guys, when you see them go, if I had a nitpick, Nick, and this is just a nitpick, and this is more just me hoping that NXT knows how to present these guys in a way that will not have this become a problem.
Okay.
And that is that there's a difference between charisma and personality.
Yes.
And Shelley and Kushida have charisma just out the eye holes, like just overwhelming, incredible charisma. But they don't really have a whole lot of personality. Like Kushida's whole gimmick is just, I'm literally Marty McFly. That's it.
Makes about as much sense as Emi Sakura being Freddie Mercury.
I'd say he sells it better.
Sure.
But the thing is that at the end of the day, that's not really a personality. That's just a costume.
Right.
And you've got to have more going on there. It's one reason why, Vince would give people these ridiculous gimmicks was he knew that there had to be something to latch onto. And in the best case scenario, the performer, makes that personality work. The problem with Vince was always that he would just give random, he'd just be like, just put on this costume and not look at who the person actually was. And every once in a while, you'd have something miraculously work out, like, Mark Calloway and The Undertaker. And then on the other side of it, you'd have, Terry being the Red Rooster. Hey, he did the best he could with Repo Man. You leave Repo Man alone.
Hurricane.
He wanted to be the Hurricane. That's another terrible example. How about Dusty Rhodes in the polka dots? He made it work, but still.
Sure.
Just
Dusty could have gotten that.
Isaac D. Yankem DDS. Obviously, that's not the best way to have Glenn Jacobs be presented.
Right.
Okay. But the bottom line is what I'm saying here is that I worry that Kushida and Alex Shelley aren't going to connect with the audience enough because they don't have personality the way that a WWE crowd wants to see personality, if that makes sense. I think back to one of the greatest times that someone went from zero to holy shit over, Cedric Alexander in the Cruiserweight Classic against Kota Ibushi, where he showed off so much personality. Like, it wasn't just charisma, it was personality in that match, right? Yeah. So that's the thing that I'm worried about with Alex Shelley and Kushida. They've got all the talent in the world. They're some of the most talented guys in the world, incredible tag team. But one of the reasons why Undisputed Era gets over, personality, right? Kyle O'Reilly playing his guitar, all the facial expressions, Bobby Fish just slimy, like, that's personality. It's different. It's beyond charisma. So it's a nitpick. I want to put that out there. It's a nitpick, but it's something that I worry about with Kushida and Alex Shelley. The only thing I worry about. Aside from that, they're golden.
Yeah.
So
how long is this? Just a one-off? Is this going to be an ongoing tag team? Or
I hope
doing
so.
this for the Dusty Classic?
I hope this is ongoing just because I don't know where else they're going to put Kushida.
Yeah.
I don't know what else they're going to have him do right now. Have him be a tag team for a while and see where else he ends up. Yeah. So, yeah, he can do anything. Kushida can literally do anything you want him to do. So, have him in a tag team for a while. Why not? Nick, there's more NXT we have to talk about.
Yes.
That's because this weekend we are having a pay-per-view.
What?
Well, it's not for NXT. It's for NXT UK.
Oh, yeah.
So let's go talk about NXT UK Blackpool.
quick rundown of the card and what we've got to look forward to tomorrow, I believe it is. It's not tonight, is it? It's tomorrow. I don't know.
Tomorrow, yes, Sunday. I don't know what day it is.
12th.
Nick.
Yeah, it's Saturday, so it's the 12th.
I don't know where I am. I just go where my clock tells me to go.
NXT Blackpool 2. NXT UK Blackpool 2. Let me make
there it is.
NXT UK takeover NXT UK Blackpool 2. There, I got it.
Viking War Raiders Machine
Experience.
So only five matches on this card, which is about right for TakeOver. That's the magic. That seems to be the magic number. And some pretty, on paper, some pretty good ones. Tyler Bate versus Jordan Devlin.
I'm looking forward to that one.
I've seen that match a few times, and I'm looking forward to that one. That's going to be a banger. A banger. Trent Seven versus the newly healed Eddie Dennis. Eddie Dennis has been out with injury way too much. People speak about Keith Lee. People forgot about Eddie Dennis. That dude can go, and him and Trent Seven are a great matchup. They know each other really well. That's going to be a really fun match. Both of those are basically like Devlin and Dennis want to get back in the game. I have a feeling they're going to do it on the backs of Bate and Seven, who I don't know how much longer they're going to be in NXT UK before they get brought over to NXT proper.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. I could see Seven sticking around, but Bate might be coming over ASAP. Especially if Tony Storm's coming over. I don't know. We've got the Women's Championship triple threat. Kaylee Ray, who is currently the champion, versus your girl, Tony Storm, versus Piper Niven. Dark horse on this one.
I think she's winning it.
Piper?
Yep.
You think that only because you want Tony to have nothing else to do in NXT UK and to come over and face Rhea?
She's been getting a push, and I think it pays that off too. But she's been getting a push. She's been much more active on both the show and on social media. And I'm seeing a resurgence of Piper Niven. So she's my pick. She's my dark horse pick to win it off of Kaylee Ray.
The only reason I could see her not winning it is health reasons.
Yeah.
She has had some health scares recently. She had a bout with Bell's palsy. And if they're worried about that, they will minimize her action in this match.
I think it'll be very telling after tomorrow night. But if she's the one that eats the pin and Kaylee Ray retains, I think it still plays out the same way. I think Tony does ultimately come over. I think we've seen Walter come over. The one guy that said he would never come over is now coming over. For a tour. They paid him some good money to come over and be the first person eliminated out of the Survivor Series match. So, it's not that big of a thing yet. But okay. I don't know. This is definitely a tough pick. I don't know. I don't know here. Kaylee, I could even see Kaylee Ray retaining. Yeah, me too.
The UK Tag Championship. This is a ladder match. This is also my pick to be the match of the night. Gallus, which is of course Mark Coffey, and Wolfgang, who are the champs, versus Fabian Eichner and Marcel Barthel, Imperium, versus the grizzled young veterans Zach Gibson and James Drake.
That's my pick.
Versus Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster. Yeah, this is anybody's game, dude.
I don't have any shoes, but I would hold up a shoe. Zach Gibson, totally, all the way.
Really, again?
Yeah, I think grizzled young vets are going to win this.
You don't think it's Imperium's time?
No. If anything, Gallus could retain here. I think Coffey and Wolfgang are very strong right now, and it's got to be somebody that's and Imperium doing the Dusty Classic. Are they? Again, you say it's a tour. I'm getting the impression it's more long term. So that may not have been established yet, but I'm seeing a sort of melding, like they're harvesting talent from the UK brand to bring over to fill in the stateside brand.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Imperium's going to be a big part of that. So I don't know that they're going to strap Imperium here. They're going to probably we're ultimately probably going to end up. I haven't seen the bracket recently, but Imperium versus UE for the final in the Dusty Classic.
No, I see Time Splitters beating UE in a shock upset.
Okay.
And maybe getting Imperium versus Time Splitters. I'm not sure, but I will say this, that because Gallus just laid down for Undisputed Era this week, I could see them retaining here just as a get back.
Yeah.
So throwing that out there.
Okay, I'm sorry. Grizzled Young Vets and Gallus and Imperium are all in the Dusty Classic.
Correct.
I didn't realize Grizzled Young Vets were also in the Classic.
Yeah. So at this point, you could have the NXT UK Tag Team Championships come back into the tournament because Mark Andrews, Flash Morgan Webster could win it and show up next week with the titles. Imperium could show up in the next round with the titles, or Grizzled Young Vets could show up next week with the titles. Anyone else who wins them. So interesting stuff. Not the only Coffee on the show, though. Joe Coffey has a match with Volta. I'm a little disappointed. I thought this was going to be Ilya Dragunov, but they're dragging off that story out a little bit longer. So, yeah, this is basically going to be Volta and Joe Coffey having a big boy match, and Coffey's going to lose. Straight up, period. No doubt in my mind. This is not Coffey's time. This is not Volta's time to lose the damn title either.
No. You
can't go nearly an hour with Tyler Bate in that war and then lose in the next pay-per-view to Joe Coffey. It's not happening. No. Sorry. No. But it should be a pretty solid show, I think. That's a solid card. Lots of good graps, good wrestling.
And a tag team ladder match. Are you kidding me? Sold. In. I don't even care who's in it. Sign me up.
Well, but especially those guys.
Yeah, especially all those guys.
Oh, my goodness. So looking forward to NXT UK Blackpool. But, Nick, we're not
done.
Nope,
you missed it again.
NXT UK Takeover Blackpool 2.
There you go.
Yeah. Ha ha. Takes me a while, but I get it. That's not the only thing that is going on this week, Nick. We have one more big show to get to. And this one's going to be tough, man. I really hated the show this week. I'm going to staying positive.
Yep.
Let's go talk about Friday Night Smackdown.
We open up Smackdown with an episode of Miz TV, which why does he still have a TV show? We don't know, but we just kind of go with it. And out comes John Morrison.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to debut him at the Rumble.
According to him, they were going to as well. In the Miz TV segment, he even says, I was supposed to come out at the Rumble being drawn to the ring on a sled led by a pack of Pomeranians. Small dogs only, because there's only one big dog on the show.
Right.
Which is a cute line. But, yeah, so I think that might have been a little bit of a shoot. Like, he was probably supposed to come back at the Rumble because that's kind of, he's parkour man. Like, he's avoid elimination at the Rumble man. Like, that's kind of his thing. But I guess they brought him back early to help with this Miz angle, this Miz feud, turning Miz heel, which, honestly, given the history of Miz and Morrison, I'm not mad at it. I didn't like the cameo last week. I thought it was a subpar reintroduction. But this week, I thought he got a really good introduction. Miz just putting him over huge, having the whole entrance with the pyro. Like, this was a good comeback for Morrison. The problem was then we had to have him talk for the rest of like 2 or 3 segments. And he's fine. He's just not great on the mic.
Yeah.
And that's not his strength. His strength is insane athletics in the ring.
Springboard moonsaults off of his legs, just stuff we saw him do in Lucha Underground,
Yeah. Yeah. So we had to go through this whole bit where we've got Miz TV and Miz and Morrison are trashing Kofi. They start trashing the crowd. Morrison saying, I can't believe you guys don't believe in Miz. He has one off week. You start saying he sucks. You guys suck. You guys couldn't be in the ring. This fat guy here in the front row, he couldn't be in the ring with me, et cetera, et cetera. And out come Kofi and Big E from New Day to be like, hold on. Don't you be dissing our peeps in the crowd. Wait, that's Christian's peeps. Our people in the crowd. That's just the wrong thing to do. We're going to come in the ring and tell you what for. And they did. And Miz and Kofi started going back and forth on the mic again, with Miz calling out Kofi for supposedly giving a crap about this, champion. Like, I respected you when you had the championship. You made it respectable, and you lost it in 6 seconds and didn't seem to give a crap about it. And Kofi just goes, I lost in 8 seconds.
Actually, it was 8 seconds.
And doesn't say anything else about it. Still doesn't explain anything else about it. Doesn't say he wasn't cool about it. I thought was interesting. And this all, of course, ends in a Kofi Miz match that gets started for apparently no reason. Like, it was already going to happen or something. And so, wait, why have all this? Whatever. Hashtag WWE Logic. Along with hashtag WWE Logic, let's put John Morrison on commentary for this whole bit, which is also not his
Big
strong.
E.
I was just opposite Big E, one of the best talkers in the company. What are you thinking? This didn't get good until there was physicality, and then all of a sudden Big E and John were in the corner, the respective corners, and of course at some point there were shenanigans, and Morrison does an awesome like parkour flippy thing on the Big E
he does.
off the stairs, because of course he does. And finally, we get some John Morrison physicality, and you could see the crowd, people in the crowd go, "Oh!" when he did it.
And he
Because
did it in boots and a leather coat. Wait till that dude
Right.
gets his ring gear on.
And he and Miz walk off standing tall. So
his new inevitable Johnny Smackdown ring gear.
right. So Miz gets a skull-crushing finale, and during the distraction, he and Morrison walk off triumphant. Why do you feel like maybe this is rhetorical, Nick, but the strengths of this segment was frankly Miz calling out Kofi, but the script writing of that whole part was terrible, was laughable. Like just no real goals to any of the characters. Like no one had anything that they really wanted. And then ultimately the match that gets put together for no reason. And the entire time, instead of trying to get John Morrison over by showing off how freaking insane he is physically, we try to have him work the mic instead. And it's only at the end, the very end, we get a little flash of that physicality. Why do you think they set this up this way?
To save it. Let's not throw everything out there that we all know. Johnny Impact, Johnny Lucha, Johnny everybody everywhere.
Johnny Mundo, Johnny Blackcraft,
Mundo,
Johnny Impact. Yeah.
Johnny Smackdown can do some really badass stuff.
Yes,
and I can't wait to see it on the main roster. I hope they let him do that kind of stuff. But to be determined, and frankly, I'm fine with keeping a little bit of it in the tank for right now and giving us a little teaser of it.
Fair enough. I guess just my nitpick is there was too much of him trying to talk and not enough of it yet.
Well, Big E checked him in the right spot. My favorite thing of the whole commentary bit between the two of them was the Fiend attacked Miz. Morrison's going on about the Fiend attacked Miz's family. Don't you have a family, Big E? Wouldn't you do anything you could if you? Nope, no family. I'm good. Just like very matter of fact, Big E shut him down. I was like, oh,
but
okay.
that's a bit of a problem right there too. Is that like if they're riffing, if they're trying to do some improv, one of the worst things you can do is shut someone down like that.
Yeah.
In an improv situation.
Nicholas Yates with the $5 in the tip jar. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh,
much appreciated.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank
awesome. You. So okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I should wait and see. I definitely am expecting a stunt off at the Royal Rumble, like a who can avoid being eliminated more crazily than Kofi or John Morrison. That's going to be a ton of fun, and maybe that's what they're building towards. And if so, I'll eat my words. But this definitely, I thought this whole segment could have been better. Nuggets of gold, but in general, kind of crap.
Yeah.
The main thing on the show, the main event, was the Usos coming out versus Corbin and Dolph Ziggler. Roman Reigns saying, my boys, my cousins are back, and yay, we're united.
Big promo about family.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yep. Yay. Mixed feelings on family. Big E. Nope, no family. Usos family. Yay. Whatever.
I don't watch wrestling for family.
Oh my goodness. Really?
I wanna see, yeah. Like unless it's what the Fiend did to Miz by going in and putting voodoo dolls and crazy dolls of Daniel Bryan's hair in the baby crib. Yeah, you have I guess he just had it in the funhouse, didn't he? Anyway, the highlight of this
weird thing to say. Don't watch wrestling for family. It's a weird thing to say.
I don't watch wrestling for family.
Well,
Who watches wrestling for family?
Sometimes I do if it's engaging enough.
Okay,
you can absolutely. Oh, you're weird. So this was it was fine, and I thought that was heartfelt for at least some of it because obviously they legit are family. They obviously love being in the ring together. Right. The three of them. Roman leaves. Usos versus Corbin and Ziggler. Fine. But then, of course, things break down. The Revival come out for some freaking reason. They're part of Corbin's court, I guess, according to the commentary, and get involved, which brings out Roman Reigns, who takes out both the Revival, comes down to the ring, and decides that he's going to regulate. And by regulate, he's going to get his cousins disqualified by spearing Corbin on the outside. All right.
Yes.
Way to stand up for your family by getting them DQ'd in their return match. Good job, big dog.
Yeah.
But then as they're all trying to put the straps to Corbin here, who should come out but Bobby Roode? Bobby Roode. He's
looking
back.
looking what I would say is looking a little
He's shredded.
Deflated like Simon Gotch over on MLW, but he's a little more trimmed up. He's a little more svelte.
He's pretty shredded, my friend.
He's lost some of his
girth. His girthiness.
Yeah.
Like he's taking a month off. He was relaxing. He ate right. I'll tell you what, that guy hasn't seen a carb in 50 years.
Taking his probiotics, that's for sure.
He hasn't seen a carb since before he was born. He's taking his probiotics. Dude, I don't even know if he drinks water. Good Lord. That guy has a lipid layer of like 0.02 millimeters. Unbelievable. But anyway, Bobby Roode's back. As we suspected, he's going to get involved in this. We're going to have 3-on-3 in this feud. That's really all I'd say about this, other than Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin said that they want to have a singles match as well as be in the Rumble as well, which I didn't know you could do that, but apparently you can call your own shot in WWE when you're King of the Ring and or the big dog. So we're gonna have not one but 2 Roman and Corbin confrontations at Royal Rumble. Oh, Nick, it's like it's my birthday all over again.
No, that was last weekend with Wrestle Kingdom. It's all downhill from here.
Are you saying that the Royal Rumble will not be as good as Wrestle Kingdom this year, Nick?
I am in fact saying that.
Heresy.
Indeed.
Heresy. Nonsense.
You've turned me into a New Japan mark, Sir Ian Dangerous.
Come to the dark side, son. We have wrestling here. Okay, so fine. This was actually all, as far as WWE is concerned, pretty entertaining stuff, like given all the pieces. But it's starting to feel a little bit repetitive. Is having the Usos and Rude in here to kind of like spice it up a little bit, is that engaging, or is that just kind of, playing fiddles on the Titanic?
I mean, a little over a year ago, we had Corbin with Ziggler and
McIntyre. Or is it like, McIntyre and
can Baron Corbin, and then Braun Strowman joined them for a minute, and then they realized the error in their ways there. But can Corbin not be on his own?
I mean, no. Seth can't be a heel on his own either. Have you noticed? Like they're not good at having solo heels, unless it's Brock, and even he's not whole solo. He's got Paul.
There's only so many plays in the playbook, it seems, when it comes to Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin, and hell, even Seth at this point. Like this is the third version of Seth, fourth, I guess, if you count the Shield. But it's kind of like, we're gonna start getting a little bit repetitive because. I mean, that's WWE. They just replay the same hits over and over again, right?
Well, yeah, and speaking of heels that can't be alone and things are starting to get repetitive, Shinsuke Nakamura has a match with Braun Strowman last week. Braun ate a Kinshasa after a match with Cesaro, which he won, but this time, Braun did not eat a Kinshasa. In fact, despite the best efforts of Cesaro and Sami Zayn, Braun pinned the Intercontinental Champion. But it wasn't for the belt, Nick, so it's okay. All right, so let's deconstruct this. First of all,
Sammy Castro. I want to talk about that.
Sammy Castro. It works for him, man. It works. It's working. Looking like Fidel Castro, like Che Guevara. Sure. All right. Like fake revolutionary kind of thing. Like that's perfect for his current gimmick. But
it's a little weird with his Syrian background and I get it though.
Let's not get too serious about it. But the point is like you've got Nakamura, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, 3 guys, 2 of whom at one point were really something special, and another guy who had all the potential in the world and they never pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
What an interesting case study of how WWE works. Sami, Cesaro, and Shinsuke.
Good point.
All in them. And opposite them, a guy who should have been the biggest thing in their company a year and a half, 2 years ago, and they fumbled it. And now he still everyone likes him still. Everyone's like, hey, rawr, Braun, rrr. But they're like, he's not, he's just kind of there, right? He's just an attraction.
We need Braun to flip something again to remind us, it's they need to bring the monster back. When he was going against, was it Shane, and he tore apart the Camaro, and then they flipped over the TV truck, and like stuff like that, strength spots.
It got him over.
It got him over in a big way, and I feel like that we've lost that. And this was a boring AF match, and I'm sorry, It's Shinsuke, man. I hate to say that, but if we look at the run he had in NXT and his run in New Japan, oh my God, how could you even fathom that this was possible? But it's Shinsuke.
Are you saying Shinsuke's the problem?
Yeah.
What? No.
Or what they're doing with him is the problem.
Okay, there you go.
Completely meaningless. I am in no way invested in the Intercontinental title, or if anything, to get it off of him and onto somebody that I am invested in Braun Strowman.
To be clear, I mean, he did have a reputation for phoning it in during New Japan tag matches. He did have a few matches in NXT that were fine. They weren't like mind-blowing, but he had a couple of good ones. Part of it, what was crazy about Shinsuke is they demystified him so quickly. And there's nothing still mystifying about him. They still don't sell him well for everything that he can do and all of his tools that he has. They still don't present him properly. And, you know, he's a guy that, yes, he's definitely in WWE to take it easy and not get his ass kicked like he used to back in New Japan, where he was one of the strongest strikers that they had. So he's here to take it easy a little bit. But at the same time, with the tools that he has, you should be able to, as an agent, craft an interesting match with him. And I thought this was actually above average, this match. This was one of, I thought, one of the better moments on the show with this match. But that, I think, says more about the show than it does the match. But at the same time, like, if it's just him and Braun in the ring, he's got a lot more experience with Braun, and it definitely felt a lot like Braun was getting a lot of, like, Shinsuke was feeding a lot to Braun.
Oh, sure.
Match, as he kind of should.
I completely agree with that.
But again, there's nothing here that I put and say it's all Shinsuke's fault. It's not. It is his presentation, 100%. His entrance is still, I think, it's kind of cool. It's not as cool as it was, but still kind of cool. I think it's interesting that they have it's like a concert hall VR graphic. Or what is it? Altered reality? What's it called? You're the tech guy.
Augmented reality.
Augmented reality. It's a concert hall ceiling. They put a ceiling on the place for his entrance, which is weird. Trying to make him like a rock star thing, I guess. But
I think you hit on something that I want to go back to for a second. The mystical side of Shinsuke Nakamura. And I think they effed that up when they changed his
Mystique. Not that he's mystical, not that he's like magical. It is Mystique.
They effed that up when they changed his theme song when he turned heel on AJ, and it's turned into a rap song. And you had the whole crowd chanting, "Oh!" You had everybody doing that, right? And you really didn't know who this guy was, but you knew he was like Japanese Prince. Like, he was going to come out and, you know, he wore all the crazy outfits and he had the big grandiose entrance and everything, and he got in the ring and he'd kneed your head off. And that was Shinsuke Nakamura. And that's gone. They've completely effed that up. And I don't know what to do with him. Even as someone that wears tinfoil hats and does crazy fantasy booking, I have no idea what to do with Shinsuke anymore. So that's my predicament that I'm in. I'm all in on Braun. We know exactly what Braun is.
But now with him winning this and then possibly, I mean, it's looking like we're going to get Braun versus Shinsuke at Royal Rumble, I think.
I'll book that.
But at the same time, should Braun win and become the Intercontinental Champion? Because then what do you do with Sammy's little faction? And then what do you do with Braun Strowman as the Intercontinental Champion?
I don't know. Send Cesaro after him for a bit or something. You could do something else, but we need a pause on Shinsuke Nakamura in a way that gives us lets us remind ourselves about how awesome he really is. And whether that's a repackage or whether that's something going up, right now it's just stagnant. And so isn't the Intercontinental Championship, and that's the part I hate the most. So let's put it on Braun. Let's have some fun for a few months. Let's get to Mania. Let's see how we get there. But, yeah, you just can't leave this thing sitting there stagnant on Shinsuke anymore. You got to figure something out.
Yeah. Figuring something out is something they have to do with their women's division, too. Good Lord. Sasha Banks no-shows Lacey Evans for a match. She gets Bayley on the Titantron instead, who very awkwardly says, "Ha, Sasha's not here, and I'm backstage because I have to be." So there. And Lacey Evans, I mean, Bayley said it, but I'll take the words out of Bayley's mouth, basically panders to the Midwest crowd, says, "Well, I'm All-American, and you guys aren't American, and yeah, I'm going to get you. Because, Even gets the crowd chanting USA, USA. And then eventually runs backstage to go fight Bayley.
Did we somehow figure out how to get foreigner heat on Sasha Banks? Like how?
Got foreigner heat on Sasha Banks and Bayley. I mean, kind of. It was more that I think that everyone's just like, yeah, she's a Marine, USA. Goes back, tries to fight Bayley. Bayley scampers away. Not mad at Lacey being a face, to be honest with you, Nick.
This is the way they should have debuted her. It's fantastic. I love Lacey's work here.
Agreed. Actually, the fact that she's so organically become a face shows how right that is for her.
Yeah.
The crowd has totally accepted it pretty quickly too. Where she went from just being like the shittiest of shit heels to mom, ex-military,
it
white
writes
meat,
itself.
Midwest babyface. Yeah, exactly. The problem here is that Bayley's performance sucks. She's a terrible champ right now. It's not believable as the champ, frankly. Her character work is all over the place. Sasha's not even there, and Sasha doesn't even feel like a big deal when she is there.
No.
And that's a problem when some of the top women in your division don't feel like a big deal. And it's something that's, again, just like with Shinsuke, it's something that they have to fix because it undercuts the characters and it undercuts the whole presentation when you see these people and you don't go, ooh, there's Bayley. You just kind of go, oh, Bayley. Or think about
when you've got Lacey Evans and Dana Brooke outshining and outpopping your champion and Sasha Banks. Hello.
Got problems.
Anybody home?
And this is actually something McFly.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, something that needs to be really seriously looked at is, as far as their presentation, like how do we continue to make these people feel special?
Yeah.
In some way. And you can be special even while being exposed at being out there every week. Like, is a way to keep people special, but it just doesn't seem to be happening right now in SmackDown. This was pretty painful.
We said it back to SummerSlam time frame on the show when they turned Bayley. I'm like, that's a commitment. You just tore down everything that made Bayley Bayley. I hope you're all in. I hope you've got a plan.
Oof.
They've proven that they do not have a plan, in fact, and they're just kind of ad hoc winging it, and it's showing. It sucks.
I still put some of it at the feet of Bayley, who I just don't think understands how to be a good heel.
I agree.
Just the performance is just not there. However, Mandy
this is
and
the
Otis,
best thing on SmackDown right now.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that too.
This is so the best thing on SmackDown. Say that.
Mandy and Otis. Well, Mandy baked Otis a cake to say, I'm sorry for letting Dolph Ziggler step on his mom's fruitcake.
It even had a little dozer on it. Did you see?
I saw a little plastic dozer. Yes, it's very wholesome. If you were someone who never watches wrestling and you watch this SmackDown, you'd never watch wrestling again. I swear to God.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
That's their women's champ? That's what the hell is going on? And we haven't even gotten to the Daniel Bryan stuff yet. Oh Lord.
Yeah, the women's champion is Karen from the grocery store that's yelling at the cash register attendant,
Jesus Christ. Well, okay, so at least the Mandy and Otis bit had some fun moments. Mandy had a match with Alexa Bliss, which was frankly one of the worst worked women's matches I've seen in years. In months. It was not good.
It was a regurgitation of what they've been doing, and Mandy yelling at her like, hey, you'll never be as pretty as me, and just, oh, God. Just stop with that shit.
The quote-unquote wrestling was minimal. This looked like a Divas match. There was hair pulling. There was just slapping. The best thing that you got was a drop toe hold at one point. I watched this with Judith Brooke, ex-pro wrestler, and she was just like beside herself with this match. She was like ready to throw things at the TV. It drove her nuts to watch women's wrestling be this garbage. At least, thank God, in the middle of it, it was interrupted by Otis, who came out with his cake to show Mandy that he liked his cake. He decided to come out, tuck her behind him like, what are you doing? Comes out to show her how much he likes the cake, so he starts just shoving it into his face and eating it, rubbing it on his belly.
Just handfuls
in the middle of the
cake.
match.
I love it.
And giving her a tongue move that I swear to God might have been the most disturbing thing I've ever seen that man do. And I've seen that man rub cake on his big exposed belly.
Yeah.
Oh God. My Lord, somebody put a leash on him.
Otis Dozovich, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways.
Oh.
And he even held his little toy dozer out to show her how much he appreciated it. That might
I didn't see that
be
part.
the banner this week. I'm just saying.
I was too busy covering my eyes, trying to not see the tongue.
And even Tucker eventually, Tucker even comes around and like gives a run of the finger of icing and takes a little nip at it. Oh God, this is so good. Like, who cares about Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross anymore?
Oh God, that is a very good point. I didn't care about them at the end of this match. I didn't care that Sonya Deville and Nikki Cross got into it at the end of this match. I didn't care about Alexa Bliss. Yeah, I mean, I like the Otis and Mandy story. I'm curious where they're going with it, because of the performers are fun. And it's a unique telling of a love story for at least for WWE. Like just that angle of it, that aspect of it. But they've made Alexa and Nikki. I don't care about them.
Yeah.
It's
Butters in the chat said Nikki Cross is so dead now. Complete 180 from NXT. I agree with that. What's the last thing you really remember about Nikki Cross? It's that ladder match she had with Asuka, the last woman standing match. That's her legacy. And we look at what she's doing now, and of course the sanity stuff. But I mean, we look at what she's doing now, and it's just like.
Well, the one thing that gives me hope is that she did give Alexa a little bit of a look where Alexa said, "We're totally going to get along in the Royal Rumble and we're going to be best friends." And Nikki was kind of like, ha ha ha. I suspect that they're just slow playing the fact that Nikki is still crazy and at some point will turn on Alexa. And fingers crossed for that. In the meantime, she's out on TV every week getting that money. So, and I say this all the time, like, not everybody has to be the number one person in their division. They don't have to be the top person on TV. When you're in WWE, sometimes just getting on TV and having a storyline, as long as it's not like embarrassingly bad, even if it is embarrassingly bad, like Rusev and Lana are getting main event money because their segment is in the main event.
Butters, I see you. Mandy and Otis wedding on SmackDown. If that happens, if this whole thing culminates in the dream story of the big guy getting the girl and getting married, you're going to see a grown man cry. I swear.
Yeah, I think that Butters had put that in the chat to try to like make it seem like it was a bad thing. What he doesn't understand is who you are, Nick, and that if you see an Otis and Mandy wedding, you're all in. You're all about that.
I'll be sobbing like a little baby.
Yeah, and then of course you come out and find out that she and Tucky have a love child. So let's talk about Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan, because this story, I've been a big supporter of this whole storyline. I thought it's been great so far, and taking the time with it. This week, I'm not going to lie, it took a bit of a left turn, Nick, and not for the better.
How so? Because I want to hear what you have to say, because I have some thoughts on it too.
Oh, well, I would hope that you do, seeing as we have a show where we give our thoughts about what happens on wrestling shows. So we've got. So we
have made it almost 3 years. I'll never know.
Like an old married couple.
Yes, sir.
So we had a Firefly Funhouse segment. Bray Wyatt said that Daniel Bryan has been very naughty, and that you should love everybody, but the Fiend and me, we don't love you, Daniel. So at the Royal Rumble, we're just gonna hurt you. Daniel Bryan gets an interview later on in the show. He says that everyone gets changed by the Fiend, but you know what? I got changed for the better because he couldn't break me. I'm unbreakable. And after this interview segment, all of a sudden the TV behind him goes to static and Ramblin' Rabbit shows up on the TV. Here's where we start stretching the credulity of this whole thing. But all right, fine. Ramblin' Rabbit shows up on the TV and goes, Daniel Bryan, I'll tell you his secret. There is the way you can beat him. And he gets grabbed by Bray Wyatt's hurt fist. And Bray Wyatt says, stitches get stitches. Psh, TV goes off the air. Daniel Bryan is left contemplating pensively afterwards. And later on, in the locker room, he finds a red box, and inside the red box is the bloody corpse of Ramblin' Rabbit. Oh my goodness!
Is Ramblin' Rabbit Kenny?
Basically, he's kind of like Bray Wyatt's Kenny.
Yeah.
But okay, so I get what they were going for here, Nick.
Okay.
And I think on some level, it's interesting information to hear that the Fiend has a weakness. And Ramblin' Rabbit knows what it is. But we were talking earlier about supernatural stuff. Like what if you can get it over with the audience, if you can get the audience to believe it, you can do anything with it. And did they go too far here? Was it a step backwards in the sense that it just became too ridiculous?
No, and I'm remembering some of my initial thoughts this past summer, 6 months ago, when we first saw The Fiend, and we were all, keep it in your pants! But we were loving that there would be these little cameos with the puppets, and we got the Hammer Smash and Ramblin' Rabbit Jelly and stuff like that. Like, that kind of little tropey stuff is kind of what kept us going and kept us into it, or what kept us into this whole thing. So I don't want to, like, I want to let this play out. I'm still very intrigued with the hurt heel thing on the gloves. We haven't really got an explanation. We've speculated that when he uses one or the other with the mandible claw or for something else, it has different powers and different effects, but you know,
you're getting really into this now.
I'm very invested in Bray. And I think a lot of us are. And I think we were all really upset after Hell in a Cell. And it's taken 3 months for us to all kind of calm down and let the dust settle and let all of this kind of reset itself. But yeah, man, I'm very happy that they're just getting back to the sort of obscure stuff that they were doing this summer before we ever got to The Fiend coming out at SummerSlam. So I'm kind of just, I'm sitting back and going, all right, let's see where this goes.
Right. Yeah. Well, I hope so. This week I thought was, like I said, I thought it was a step backwards, but overall, yeah, I'm with you. Let's see where it goes. A couple other things on SmackDown. Elias sang a song about the Rumble. I don't like Face Elias. I don't like him being the SmackDown version of the Street Profits and coming out here and running down the whole story for us in a damn song. It was lame.
No, that was awful.
And finally, Sheamus cut a promo. He's gunning for Chad Gable, and he's back on SmackDown to embrace chaos, and they lit him to be really shiny. But yeah, that was SmackDown, Nick. And it was not good this week.
No, it was not.
But hopefully they'll rebound next week. They've been hit or miss. There's been some that I've been entertained by. This was unfortunately just not one of them. Not one of them. Seemed a little slipshod.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Ian, that's the end of the wrestling stuff, the graps. But we always want to close out the show with something that we like to call a moment of positivity. So, Ian, what was your moment of positivity for the week?
I'm glad we are doing this because I feel like SmackDown this week, I was being a little bit down. And now, while my moment of positivity doesn't come from SmackDown, I'm glad that we're at least rebounding a little bit here. Yeah. It actually comes. It was tough because I wanted to say Kushida and Alex Shelley reuniting. Like when I saw that they were going to be time splitters, like I lit up like a Christmas tree. I was like, yes! Oh my God! Time splitters in NXT! Oh! That was a good one. But I had to call back. I had to go back to the absolute insane pops that Orange Cassidy gets. And just that match, that weird, like indie comedy match that Jurassic Express and Best Friends had was just that put a smile on my face the entire time. And I was just sitting there going, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe this match was on TV and working as well as it was. And I know that they've done stuff with all these guys before. It just seemed to crystallize for me this week where I was like, this is just so much goddamn fun and it makes no sense and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't, yeah, who cares? It's fun.
It doesn't matter. It's just fun. And to anybody who watched that and was like, it doesn't make any sense. It's not wrestling. I'm like, yep, but you know what? It's fun.
In 2020, it is.
And in some ways, that's sometimes that's all you need. So that was my moment of positivity was just being really happy at that ridiculous comedy match.
I'll give you 3 guesses as to what mine is.
Jackson Riker.
Come on.
Otis eating the cake.
No, that's 2.
Oh, that's number 2?
No, that's 2 guesses. Wrong.
That's 2 guesses. Wrong. I have to. There's a third one. I have to figure this out. Brandy on commentary. What? Was I wrong?
It was when I heard that guitar riff signaling that Toni Storm was coming out to face Rhea Ripley at the end of her thing to interrupt her. Basically,
Nick Toni Storm. Give Nick Toni Storm. I got you. Yeah.
Look, all markery aside, I think the pairing of those two in some sort of match, do you have to turn Tony heel to make that work? I don't know if that works with somebody like Tony. Does Rhea somehow flip in the mid-reign to do something dastardly? Who knows? But we've had Bianca, we've had Io, we've had Candice. None of them have really worked against Shayna, and I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they could potentially work against a Rhea Ripley and a face champ dynamic. Could they make some of these storylines work? I don't know. But am I excited about seeing Tony on TV? Hell yes.
Of course you are.
Listen, she's 23 years old. She's held every women's title around the world. Literally almost all of them. And it's put all of the male stuff aside. Yeah, she's an amazing in-ring talent. She's really good on the mic. She's got good comedy timing. All of that stuff. So I think that getting to see her shine on TV every week, I think is going to be a good thing for NXT. So that was mine for obvious reasons. You guys know I'm a huge Toni Storm fan. Have been
none of the male reasons for it.
None whatsoever.
Not because she's got dumps like a truck.
That's like what?
Yeah. Give Nick all night long. Give Nick Toni Storm. All right, enough of that. That was our moment of positivity,
yes,
ladies and gentlemen. And Nick, I think that's our show.
Yes, guys, thanks for. Oh no, wait, we're not done just yet. We've got just enough time for our other news lightning round. Beep 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 beep.
All right, well, this actually happened right as we were starting our show, so this is going to be kind of catch as catch can still. I don't even know what's happened since the start of the show. But my goodness, Tessa Blanchard's getting dragged on Twitter right now. She put out a tweet saying, "Hey, woman, try supporting one another. Cool things happen." And oh, Lord, they came out of the woodwork to take her down after that. Priscilla Kelly came out and said, "Remember publicly putting me down on Twitter last year for something that didn't involve you whatsoever, then continuing to drag my name to other people for it? Pepperidge Farms remembers. You should probably delete this tweet." My goodness. Not only that, Chelsea Green said, you consistently put down, bullied, and belittled countless female coworkers, including me. Is that support? ? So right off the bat, Priscilla Kelly and Chelsea Green coming after Tessa Blanchard. Also, Allison Kay with probably the biggest shot fired, where she's Allison Kay, Sienna, said, "Remember when you spat in a black woman's face and called her the N-word in Japan? Was that you, quote, supporting women?" The audacity of this tweet. Holy mackerel. Tessa Blanchard responded directly to Chelsea Green saying, "I've never been anything but kind to you. I've dealt with mean girls since I started. Not saying I'm a saint. Hell, I've had my ups and downs, and I've made silly decisions, such as life. You have zero merit in your comments. Instead of putting me down here for a little clout, you've got my number." Also, Moose came to her defense saying, "I guess you," to Allison Kay, he said, "I guess you and Chelsea Green are absolute angels with a clean past. The timing of these tweets from you guys shows a lot about your characters." And Tessa finished off. The last thing I saw was her saying, "This is not true. That's my statement, and the most attention I'll give it because of how actually ridiculous it is." Moose is, of course, referring to the fact that Tessa has her match against Sami Callihan for the Impact World Championship this Sunday on Impact Hard to Kill. But my goodness, shade being thrown at Tessa Blanchard. And we've heard rumors of her having issues with other women in the past, including the reason she was out of the Mae Young Classic in the first round was because of issues she had backstage at WWE. But this is, damn, they came for Tessa today. So I hadn't heard that story about her in Japan from Allison Kay.
Me either.
Wow, if true. Anyway, think what you will. There's probably more on Twitter right now, and I'll continue that over in the group, but I haven't had a chance to follow up on that since we started the old show here. But speaking of Impact, yes, Sami Callihan versus Tessa Blanchard for the Impact World Championship this Sunday.
Wow.
Tessa, frankly, likely to win, be the first ever women's Impact World Champion, especially an intergender match. It's a pretty big deal, but obviously lots
other
of
than
haters
intergender, any other stipulations for this match, or is it just a straight up pinfall submission?
Straight up match. Also, Taya Valkyrie versus Jordan Grace versus ODB in a three-way for the Knockouts title If Taya loses her title, you might see Mrs. Morrison over the WWE sooner rather than later. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Ace Austin versus Trey for the X Division Championship. Eddie Edwards will defend his Call Your Shot trophy against Michael Elgin. Ethan Page and Josh Alexander versus Rich Swann and Willie Mack, who have the most wholesome relationship in wrestling right now. Brian Cage versus Rob Van Dam. Yes, gimme. Ken Shamrock versus Madman Fulton. Yes, gimme. And Moose versus Rhino. Also, yeah, gimme. So that's a pretty solid card. I'm not going to lie.
Hell yeah, it is.
Pretty damn solid card. So that's coming up this Sunday. Check that out on Fight TV. So Nick, remember earlier in the show when I said there was a report out, a strong rumor that said who the new leader of the Dark Order might be?
Oh?
Well, guess who's leaving WWE in March and is rumored to be that person? None other than Matthew James McKennicky Hardy.
Oh?
Matt Hardy, Broken Matt Hardy, may soon be Dark Order Broken Matt Hardy, which I think is a very interesting prospect. And it would certainly go a long way to making Dark Order feel pretty damn legit.
You have my attention.
Right? That was a Wrestling Observer.
That all kind of works.
So take that with a Wrestling Observer size grain of salt, but at the same time, I'm not mad at that idea. Also, speaking of Wrestling Observer, they and PW Insider report that Ring of Honor is offering Marty Scurll some WWE main roster money to stick around for some insanely small number of dates. Like the boy is getting paid. Ring of Honor is opening up their purse strings to try to keep
they're going to let him
around.
work in the NWA and New Japan as well. From what
Correct. Yes. So they want them some Marty Scurll. They know how much value he has for other companies. Speaking of which, in response to a lot of the criticism that Ring of Honor's been getting lately, PCO had an interview where he said that he's actually had nothing but good stuff coming from Ring of Honor. I mean, it's easy to say as the Ring of Honor champ, but he said that when he was injured, when he had stitches, that they were very professional. They got him to the hospital, and that they got a CAT scan, and he didn't have to pay for anything. Ring of Honor sent him an agent after the show that took care of everything, signed the papers, brought him back to the hotel, made sure he was okay. He says, whenever I get a little banged up or something, I always get a phone call. Are you good? Are you okay? And the next day he gets, thanks for what you've done. They are nothing but a first-class organization. So he says, I don't know why Joey Mercury said those things. I don't know if it might have been some frustration because things weren't going the way that he was hoping. Was it a personal vendetta? I don't know what it was. I can't talk for that guy. And I love him to death, but from my side, it has been nothing but first class from Ring of Honor. From my signing event to every event and everything that they do. So PCO coming to Ring of Honor's defense in this particular situation. So just interesting to get both sides of the story here because we've definitely been down on Ring of Honor recently. So speaking of Ring of Honor, also newly re-signed with Ring of Honor, Bandito. Bandito has officially re-signed as well. So a possibility they may be keeping some of that talent that is so precious that they still have. So speaking of people getting shade thrown at them, Gabe Sapolsky from Evolve, the guy who runs Evolve, more shade being thrown his way. Darby Allin had an interview this week saying Gabe treated wrestlers like, quote, fanboys who should be happy to work there because of the WWE affiliation. And Darby said that while he was working for Evolve, he was living out of his car and more worried about his hospital bills than anything else as far as in-ring work. Not the only person I've heard talk smack about Gabe Sapolsky. We had Ethan Page. We talked about it last show. Ethan Page is throwing shade at him as well. So Evolve getting dragged right now too, Nick. And then a couple more things. Shibata over in New Japan. Katsuyori Shibata, who of course had his career ended by a nasty, nasty injury in a match with Kazuchika Okada at Dominion a few years ago, had a subdural hematoma from headbutting Katsuyori Shibata, from headbutting Okada too hard. He tried to get cleared earlier, let's see, late last year, I guess, with this whole feud with Kent and everything. He wanted to get back in the ring. He still wants to get back in the ring. He wants it so badly, Nick. But he was told in, quote, no uncertain terms that there was, quote, 0% chance that he would ever be cleared by the New Japan doctors.
Wow.
Which, given how he went out and the fact that he's a madman and would probably try to do something crazy and stupid again, it might be for the best.
Yes, please. Please don't get back in there and die.
Right? Oh, my God. When the little bit of action that he had last year with Kenta, I was just sitting there the entire time like going, don't touch his head. Don't hit him in the head. Oh, God. More scary than Daniel Bryan, that. But so Shibata not looking like he's getting back in the ring anytime soon, sadly.
Do not let that man anywhere near Kenta right now.
Kenta's a professional. He's not going to kick him in the head.
Listen.
We don't think. Who knows with Kenta these days? He's a madman. Finally, Samoa Joe said in an interview on Corey Graves' podcast that Vince loved him on commentary. Now, he was being a little bit in character when he said all this, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if he was coming from some sort of basis of truth, because good God, the guy really was fantastic on commentary.
Yeah.
So wouldn't surprise me if after he's done with his regular wrestling duties, that Vince doesn't try to wrangle him into a commentary position, because goddamn, give me Samoa Joe on commentary. It's really good.
Yeah, full time especially. I'm in.
Oh, that is the news, sir. Amen. That I'm in as well.
Thank you very much, Sir Ian Dangerous, and thank you guys for hanging out in the chat. Just a quick note, don't go anywhere. Just refresh our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, because you'll see the next stream coming up immediately after we wrap this one up for our patron mailbag episode.
Yeah.
And if you're not watching on YouTube currently and you're listening in your car to the audio podcast afterwards, head over to youtube.com/bustedwideopen. Hit that subscribe button so that you can get notified whenever we go live. That way you can hang out in the chat and interact with us while we do those listener questions from our patrons. And hey, if you want to contribute to that and ask your questions for Ian and I to answer, pretty much anything goes. You can head over to patreon.com/BWO. Best way to support the show is via Patreon. For just $5 a month, you can sign up to get a copy of the show notes and the ability to ask those listener questions every single week. For $10 a month, you can get access to monthly bonus episodes every single month, such as, hopefully, if I can get it done, Nick's Fantasy Booking Part 2 coming later this month. I got a couple of long-haul flights to do in the next few weeks, so be ready. It's coming. But yes, patreon.com/BWO. You can get bonus episodes, sweet swag, Skype calls with Nick and Sir Ian Dangerous, all kinds of good stuff over there. And it's one of the ways that we keep this show ad-free for the time being. As we grow and grow, that needs to grow as well so that we can continue to keep some of that clear. So best way to support the show is via Patreon. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, because we are on that race to 1,000 subscribers. And the faster we get there, we can start doing some things like ads on the YouTube stuff on our videos and super chats and things like that. So all of this has a purpose, right? We want to keep all of this ad-free, and you guys helping us and supporting us is one of the key things to do as we head headlong into 2020. You can also find us over on Twitter and Instagram. Can't keep all the social medias straight.
Come on, DDP. Come on, DDP. Let's go.
Twitter and Instagram at BWO Podcast. And like I said, youtube.com/bustedwideopen. But my name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at Data Center Dude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
But by God,
would somebody stop the damn match?
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.